Hello and welcome back to another session of Karen's Colours. I'm Dr. Karen and these are my colour conversations. At the beginning of February, I decided to do some colour readings for people based on their birth month. It was an interesting experiment and I thank those of you who bothered to leave some feedback. Suddenly, I thought I might try it again. But before I do, I'd like to also go through the various colours that were missing from each month's reading and just see what it is that you were likely to have used as the colours for your change issues if you chose to do them. I certainly had some interesting feedback from my own colour choices. The colours that were missing from my particular reading and the ones that I chose to use, and as you can see, pink and brown. I also introduced it as food. Strawberries and chocolate cake make a lovely combination, even if they're not particularly good for you. Anyway, before we get started, I'd like to thank once again those of you who have listened to the videos that I produce. Thank you for those who have subscribed, for those who've made comments, and for those who have given likes to those particular videos. And if you missed out on last month's readings, well, maybe the readings for March are more to your taste. Anyway, you are very welcome to listen in. Let's begin, shall we? So here we are with the colour changes that were potentially useful to you for the month of February 2025. If you have a birthday in September, then for February 2025, there would have been 5 colours missing from your repertoire. They are black, red, grey, purple, and cyan. And depending on which colour was the most appealing to you and which was the least appealing to you, had you put those colours into your life, then you would have found that there were changes that would have occurred. Altogether, those colours gave you the opportunity for 20 separate colour combinations. The colour in the top of each circle representing the one that you most liked, and the colour in the bottom of each circle representing the one that you least liked. I wonder what those colours did for you if you took up the challenge and put them into your life. If you were born in September, this is your colour reading for the month of March. The energy you bring with you from February into March, what it will be like in the middle of March, and how you will feel by the end of March, and the underlying energy. You bring with you into March a great deal of frustrations about goals and ambitions and practical skills that you have wanted to put into place, and in the real world you've done quite a bit of that. But are they really in the direction that you had originally anticipated they would go? And that's not necessarily the way in which you wanted life to travel. Because red in the real world is energy dissipated in all sorts of directions. So maybe you are a little inclined, and have been inclined throughout February, to set yourself some tasks and then find yourself being distracted and heading off in a different direction. Whatever the situation is here, you're still able to create those goals and you still need to do so. But you also need to maintain the energy that is necessary to achieve them. By the middle of March, you're going to find that inside yourself you will be re-evaluating just what those goals were. Grey on green is always about major changes in your life. Green internally is a desire for something new. So whatever the goals were back here that you were so busy carrying out, they're no longer satisfying. You want to try something different. But in the real world, what you have is a lot of uncertainty, confusion, misdirection, things being led off in directions that you hadn't expected. And because they were unexpected, you weren't able to take advantage of them as you might if there was a little more clarity available. By the end of the month, that clarity is here, but white on green is always a sense of dramatic change. Now, in the tarot, white on green are the colors associated with the card called death. Death doesn't mean you're going to die. What it does mean, however, is that there will be a dramatic and drastic change to the direction you will be going. Because even though you're still desiring change and opportunities and new pastures, in the real world, there will be so many opportunities available, so many directions that you can go in, that you will be somewhat confused about which will you take. And if you don't choose, the choice will be made for you. So what then are the underlying energies here? Well, you have orange over red. This is a huge amount of energy all packaged in together. Red internally is frustration, but it's also jumping out of your skin with desire for something. When we add that to what you're bringing into March, it means that you have got choices to be made, lots of choices. Now, are they good choices or bad choices? No one knows, because you really don't have any value system that goes with it. Instead, what you do have is a tendency to jump at whatever opportunities arise, and to also make a crisis out of the lack of energy to carry out the things that you wanted to do. So orange and red are very similar in color formation as red on brown. And between those two, you're going to find that the beginning of the month will be extremely hectic for you. You may even find yourself having to move house or change jobs or start off in some other role for yourself that you hadn't really intended. The orange and red by the middle of the month will be causing you to step back and re-evaluate things, because green and red are opposites on the color wheel. And so you're going to be going from a great deal of frustration and energy to a great deal of having to reflect and think very carefully about what it is that you really believe in, what you really want, what are your values. The orange in the real world, which is all about using confidence and courage and social skills to get where you want to go, will be undermined to some extent by the uncertainty of the situations that you find yourself in. Nevertheless, by the end of the month, those uncertainties will have cleared, and you will find yourself feeling as though, yes, this major change in my life is going to take me exactly where I want to go. All I need is the confidence to get up there and take advantage of it. So how do we get there with a little more grace? Let's look at the colors that are missing. There's no black, but you do have white. You have red, but no yellow. There is green, but no blue. There is brown and orange and grey, but you don't have purple or pink or cyan. So your challenge for this month of March is to look at those 6 colours and determine which of those is the most appealing and then which is the least appealing, and introduce those colours, the most and least appealing, into your life in some way on a daily basis, so that you can incorporate these skills, this skill set that these colours represent, into what is going on around here. And when you do so, you'll find that your ability to alter the outcomes will be much enhanced. So here we are with the color changes that were potentially useful to you for the month of February 2025. If you had a birthday in October, then for February 2025, the colors that were missing from your reading were black, white, yellow, blue, gray, and cyan. Now, depending on which color was most appealing and which was least appealing, if you put those colors into your life, you may have found some changes happening. Altogether, you would have had the opportunity to take part in one of 30 separate combinations. The color in the top of each circle representing the color that was most appealing, and the color in the bottom of each circle representing the color that was least appealing. Did you take up the challenge? Did you put those colors into your life? And if so, what sorts of results did you find? If you were born in October, then this is the color reading for you for the month of March. The energy that you bring into the month of March from February, the energy that will appear by the middle of March, and the energy that you will take from March as you leave. And here we have the underlying energy. Coming from February, you will have had experiences that have challenged everything you've ever known. You've been intellectually invited to learn something new, to take on board information that you have never considered before. And in the real world, the pink is all about vulnerability. You haven't been able to deny the reality that has been presented to you, but you also haven't necessarily been able to understand it. And so therefore you've needed some sort of instruction, some sort of help in interpreting all of this new information that you discovered in February and have now entered into March. By the middle of March, that information will have dissipated as new experiences, and in fact, you will be starting to feel somewhat empty internally. All of the stuff you knew before that you thought was real and true has been taken away from you. And in its place in the real world, we have green. Green is about opportunities, about changes in values, about taking advantage of what is offered to you in the real world. It is the reverse of what in the tarot we call the death card. So this is an ever ongoing experience of change, of as soon as I get rid of one lot of experiences, something else comes in to challenge me. And so there's this constant cycle of having to react to new experiences. By the end of March, back comes this learning. You've gone through this period of continual change with no ending, and now you have a little bit more control over it. You are learning things, but those learnings are now self-directed. In the real world, there is orange. Orange is confidence, it's courage, it's being independent. And so you are becoming an independent learner. You're doing your own research. You're discovering the things that you want to discover, and you are able to stand up and be counted because you now have the knowledge that backs up the things that you assert. Back here, coming into March, the knowledge that you would assert was always vulnerable to being brought down because you didn't have facts. Now, by the end of March, you do have facts, and real ones, not fake facts or alternative ones. So what's the underlying energy here? Well, that learning experience is extremely important. It's like your mind has been opened up because it appears 3 times. Your mind has been opened up to take on new information. And in the real world, what you are expected to do with that information is to go forward and send it out into the world, at the same time taking advantage of every time there is an opportunity for you to speak what is in your heart. When you do so, you find that here by the middle of March, where normally you would simply be taking advantage of every opportunity because you're not sure what opportunities you should be taking advantage of, here instead the underlying energy is the urge to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. So how do we do this with the least amount of discomfort? Well, let's have a look at the colours that are missing. There's no black, but you do have white. There's no red, but you do have yellow. In fact, you have an awful lot of yellow. You have green, but no blue. There is no brown. There is no orange. You do have orange. There's no grey or purple, but you do have pink. But there is also no cyan. So your challenge is to look at those 7 colours and determine which of them is the most appealing and which is the least appealing, and then in some form incorporate those into your everyday life. And when you do so, what you are actually accomplishing is incorporating these skills that these colours represent into what you are doing here and enhancing the underlying energy, so that when you do get to the stage of being able to stand up and be counted because you have all of the data that is necessary to assert yourself and to be heard as a knowledgeable, informed person, that those ideas will also be acceptable to others, which is basically the reason why you're doing all of that research. So here we are with the colour changes that were potentially useful to you for the month of February 2025. If you have a birthday in November, then your February 2025 reading would have left out the colours red, yellow, green, orange, grey, pink and cyan. And depending upon which of those colours was most appealing and which was least appealing for you, it would have given you the opportunity to use one of 42 combinations in order to make some changes in your life. The colour in the top of each circle represents the colour that you most liked. The colour in the bottom is the one that was least appealing to you. And if you put those colours into your everyday repertoire, you may have found things happening and your responses being quite different to the way in which you normally respond to issues of the day-to-day experience. If you were born in November, then this is your colour reading for the month of March. The energy you bring into March from February, what March will look like throughout the month, and what you will be leaving March with. And finally, if I can get just one card instead of 2, the underlying energy. What you're bringing into March from February is brown on orange. You have been fighting one major fight. Internally, you have all of the courage, the confidence, the independence that is necessary for you to carry out your goals. You have very specific ideas about what you want to achieve and how you wanted to achieve it. And with that internalized courage and confidence, you have been able to go out and do it. You are not a sit-at-home person. This has been all out in public. What happens by the middle of March, however, is that all of that energy, all of those goals, all of that being able to get things done dissipates. You've still got the drive, the need to overcome whatever crisis you feel you have back here that has initiated all of this behavior that enables you to be goal-directed. But now you're not feeling quite so confident anymore. In fact, you're not even feeling very independent. And in the real world, the white suggests that all of the energy that you have been expending seems to have gone everywhere else except where it needed to be for your satisfaction. And so you find yourself being unable to rein things in. People perhaps aren't paying attention like they did back here. You aren't able to achieve the things that you wanted to achieve like you did back here. It's like your whole life in the real world has been emptied out, but the needs to be in control remain. By the end of the month, that orange has turned to pink, the white has turned to grey. Grey on pink is a surrender. Pink internally is all about vulnerability. I don't feel as though I have the energy to continue the fight. And in the real world, instead of energy just heading in all directions, here, energy is clouded. Everything you do by the end of the month will seem to be insecure. There is no clarity. There is no ability to determine just where and how your various different schemes and plots that you had back here are developing or heading. Internally, you need help, but externally, you don't know where to find it. And that amount of energy that is being dissipated in this search for assistance that you don't know where to get it from causes you to feel pretty much exhausted. Underlying this entire reading for the month is the fact that there is also pink in the real world. This is a search for assistance, a need for some sort of assistance. And one of the good things about pink in the real world is that you become attractive to other people. So people will actually offer you assistance. But are you going to be able to take it on? Because orange internally is the color of independence. You feel as though you are agitated and in a state of crisis internally. But you also, back here, learnt that you can manage these things on your own. You are an independent thinker, an independent worker. You do not need other people's help. Yet, other people's help is exactly what you need in order to deal with this total inability to control just where your energy and your goal-directed behavior is heading. So how do we do this in order to make it easy for yourself? Let's look at the colors that are missing. There is no black, but you do have white. There's no red and no yellow. You also don't have green or blue, but you do have brown and orange and grey. There is no purple, but you do have pink, and there is no cyan. So these 7 colours represent the skills and attributes that are not being used currently throughout the month of March. But if you incorporate those into your life in some way, they will enhance the skills you already have over here and enable you to make the best of being able to accept help from those who really are helpful. How do you do this? Well, we take the colour that is most appealing and the colour that is least appealing and incorporate those into your life somehow. Every day, give yourself a shot of those two colors. And as you do so, you'll find that not only will the confidence that you have in your own abilities to set your goals and achieve them, but you will also find that people will be more receptive to the things that you are offering in terms of your confidence, your ability to stand up and be counted. So here we are with the color changes that were potentially useful to you for the month of February 2025. If your birthday falls in December, then for February 2025, your color reading eliminated 7 colors: black, white, yellow, green, blue, orange, and cyan. And those colors, depending on which was the most appealing and which was the least appealing, if introduced into your daily life, would have given you the opportunity to use one of 42 separate combinations. The color at the top of each circle represents the color most appealing, and the one in the bottom of the circle represents the color that is least appealing. Did you take up the challenge? Were you able to ascertain that there were different ways of responding to everyday situations if you did so? If your birthday was in December, then this is your color reading for the month of March. The energy that you bring into March from February, the energy in the middle of March, and the energy with which you leave March. Here we have the underlying energy for the entire month. You're coming into March from the month of February with a great deal of energy. Internally, there is frustration, but in the real world, things have been fairly quiet. Now, cyan on red are pretty much opposites on the color wheel. So there is a swing here between frustration and stagnation, but also between having a great deal of fun, because red is always a color of energy that brings a smile to your face, and in the real world, happiness. So which has it been for you? Are you someone who still feels as though there is a lot to accomplish and you have more than enough energy bursting out of your life to do so, and in the real world are prepared to do anything that is going to cause comfort and peace and bliss for yourself? Or are you someone who is going to be angry and frustrated because nothing in the world is changing? Red and cyan together always give a double meaning like that because they are opposites. By the middle of the month, there is something that's going to happen to you that will probably be almost the antithesis of what is happening in the beginning of the month. You're going to learn a lot of new things. In fact, you're going to learn so much that it will almost be overwhelming for you. Yellow internally is about the need to understand what is being presented to you, but it's also the gathering of lots of information. And indeed, by the middle of March, you will be actively seeking more answers, more truths, more facts, not alternative facts or false facts, but real, honest to goodness facts. And you will be seeking them just about everywhere. White in the external world is all about dragging information from wherever it might appear. And in many ways, this can be overwhelming because you have no real control over not only where the information comes from, but the type of information that appears. So it's up to you to determine just what you will believe and what you won't believe. By the end of the month, you are in a situation where you have green over white, where all of that overwhelming energy of white, directions of information coming from everywhere, will now be internalized. And it's almost like a light bulb has gone off inside of yourself. And suddenly, in the real world, you have some choices to be made. There are opportunities here in green that enable you to change your values, to take up new ones, to strengthen old ones, to simply allow yourself to head off in a different direction if those opportunities are there and internally you are prepared to head for them. Green and white are, in tarot terms, the opposite of the death card. So here we have a situation that is continually ongoing. You're going to be constantly on this roundabout of, oh, that's new enlightening stuff that I've now experienced or have learned about. And in the real world, oh, there's another opportunity, or there's something different that is challenging that. So this is a never-ending cycle of renewal. Underlying this entire reading, we have red on purple. Purple internally is a need for healing, but it's also a need for change. And that change can be quite abrupt. You can find yourself wanting simply to crash through and burn down everything that you knew before in order to make a change and make things better. In the real world, you also have the energy and the desire to do so. And together, these two colors can be quite painful to experience because often red in the real world is impulsiveness. It's getting out there and doing things that you probably should think about before you go ahead and do them. And in fact, you have an opportunity in the middle of the month with all of this new information, all of this thinking going on, to rearrange this impulsiveness, this activity. And by adding yellow and red together, you end up with a form of orange. And orange is confidence and courage and also independence. Red does not give you independence. It gives you power, same as purple also gives you a form of power. And together those two types of power are impulsive and they are also potentially quite dangerous. So you need to be careful over the month of March that you don't stretch yourself too far because there is always the opportunity that you may fall ill. Be careful. How do we make sure that you are indeed careful? Well, let's look at the colors that are missing. You don't have any black, but you do have white. You have red, you have yellow, you have green. There's no blue or brown. And even though orange is hidden in these cards, it nevertheless does not exist on its own. There's no grey. You do have purple. There is no pink, but you do have cyan. So the challenge for you in the month of March is to look at these 6 colours and determine just which of those is the most appealing, the least appealing, and put those 2 colours into your life. They represent a repertoire of skills that you are not currently using, certainly not with these colours, but if you do incorporate them, then they will change the way in which you use this frustration and power that you have, so that when you come across the issues that you will intellectually and also value-wise, that you'll be able to deal with those in a way that enables you to obtain some sort of clarity in your life and allows you to move forward with confidence. So I trust that you have enjoyed your little foray into a colour analysis for the month of March for your birth month. And if you do take up the challenge, I'd love to know how it goes for you. Please leave comments in the section below if you have anything you would like to say about these readings. And otherwise, I'll catch you next month when I explain to you just what the colours that were missing mean for you, and hopefully you'll be able to resonate with them. Until then, may colour imbue your life and you have a wonderful month of March. Bye.